My name is Penelope Calder. I'm 34, and I've spent the last decade building a career most people would envy. Cybersecurity expert, partner at a firm in Salt Lake City, and married into the prestigious Hawthorne family. On paper, I should have belonged. But I was never Hawthorne. Not like my sister-in-law Lauren, the golden girl, or my mother-in-law Margaret, who could cut you to pieces with a smile and call it etiquette. From the very beginning, I was tolerated, not embraced. At family dinners, my name disappeared from place cards. At holidays, so did my seat. And yet, I still clung to the idea that if I played it right, they'd let me in. Then came the wedding, her wedding, and the smirk that changed everything. That was for family only, Margaret whispered, and that's when I realized someone had gone out of their way to erase me. The Vale Grand ballroom glowed in gold and champagne hues. Crystal glasses, white orchids, cameras mounted high, too many eyes. I stood at the check-in counter, clutching a cream-colored invitation embossed in silver. Mrs. Penelope Calder, reserved, I told the concierge. He frowned, tapped on the screen. Again. Then, I'm sorry. You're not on the list. I blinked. Excuse me. I can't find your name here. A click of heels. A voice coated in expensive perfume. Margaret. Sweetheart, she said with sugar-dripping pity, that invite was for family only. My fingers dug into the edge of the counter. I am family. Her smile never moved. That's debatable. I turned. Lauren, in her $12,000 gown, stood flanked by bridesmaids. Daniel wasn't in sight. Heat crawled up my spine. I pulled out my phone. Pulled up the email confirmation. Gone. Wedding website. Locked out. My access code returned a red error. Account not found. You erased me, I said quietly. Margaret leaned in, eyes flickering. You shouldn't make a scene. Not in front of the press. Behind her, a photographer caught the moment. Her smile, my silence. Perfect shot. I walked out into the cold. The Colorado air stung harder than it should have. Back at the car, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You were never meant to be there. No sender. No metadata. The message self-deleted. I locked the doors. Hands shaking. I scrolled back to the original RSVP email. Found the thread. But instead of my message, I saw. User access expired. Request denied. I opened my encrypted vault. The audit trail had gaps. Gaps I didn't leave. Someone had rooted my inbox. Altered my calendar. Someone with admin-level access. Someone who knew me. My systems. Panic twisted to ice. Hours later, in the hotel room I'd booked weeks in advance, I scanned the Wi-Fi logs. 5 unknown devices pinged my name through the network. 3 were smartphones. 1 untraceable. Burn MAC address. The 5th? A mirrored clone of my own phone. I wasn't just uninvited. I was being watched. The hallway creaked outside. Motion detected. I checked the peephole. Nothing. But a voice in my head whispered something I'd heard once years ago. They don't have to kill you to make you disappear. They just have to delete the version of you people remember. I stayed awake until 3 a.m. The room never got warm. The silence was too clean. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. I didn't drive home. I drove to the office. 1 lamp. 1 lock. 1 fingerprint scan. The door clicked open. The hum of the server rack greeted me like an old friend. This was my sanctuary. My war room. I slid into my chair, kicked off my heels, cracked my knuckles. Target, the wedding registry system. A basic vendor platform with laughable encryption. They didn't expect anyone like me to probe it. My fingers flew. Query the guest list backups. Scan for deleted entries. Restore ghost records. Ping. Match found. There it was, my name. Penelope Calder, primary guest. Timestamp. 10:42 a.m., 3 weeks before the wedding. Next line, modified Access removed. Timestamp, 1:19 a.m., 3 nights before the ceremony. IP attached. Familiar prefix. My throat tightened. The IP was from the Hawthorne estate. I dug deeper. Admin level override. Only one account had that access, Hawthorne admin. I smiled without joy. Subtle, Margaret. Next cut, my personal email. I backtracked all traffic from my server for the last month. A backdoor shell had been injected, quiet, clean, designed to mimic system updates. But it wasn't mine. Whoever did it knew how I coded. They cloned my logic, but not my rhythm. It was like someone forged my handwriting with the wrong pressure. One misplaced semicolon. That's all it took to tell me this wasn't me. I cross-referenced the intrusion window with outgoing messages. Found it. My RSVP confirmation had been deleted exactly 72 hours before the wedding, replaced by a no-response log tag. Automated systems do the rest. Scrub, clear, deny. And no one questions a system if the logs are clean. Unless you know how to see ghosts. I pinged an old contact. Cleo Hart. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, not since she left DARPA over an ethics dispute. But Cleo was the kind of woman who saw shadows in patterns. She once told me, truth isn't hidden behind lies. It's buried in the spaces between data. We met at a gas station outside town. 3 a.m. No lights. She wore a hoodie, no makeup, still smelled like burnt solder. You look like shit, she said. Feel like it too. I handed her a USB. She plugged it into her own rig, a patched-together laptop with a cracked corner and stickers of dead philosophers. 10 minutes. Silent typing. Then she looked up. Pen. Someone spoofed your device ID. Tunneled through a VPN in Ottawa. Masked in a browser hijack. You were locked out by your own signature. How clean is it? Too clean. It's like you never existed. A breath. But you did, she added. Then she showed me a packet dump from a mirror server that hadn't synced yet. An artifact, a remnant. In it a list. Guest names. One highlighted in blue. Mine. Below it a note field. Remove, quietly. Per request. Don't notify. Cleo frowned. Want to know who logged this? My nod was tight. She turned the screen. Showed me the audit log. The request came from a domain associated with the planner's admin portal. But the account used was flagged inactive since 2019. Inactivity meant someone resurrected it for one purpose. To vanish me. Want to hear the best part? Cleo asked. Sure. This was logged from the Vale Hotel's Wi-Fi. One night before the wedding. My stomach dropped. I was there. She clicked into camera metadata, searched for logins tied to MAC addresses. Pause. There's something else. She opened a folder, played a video. Surveillance cam. Dressing suite. Low audio, but clear. Lauren standing by the mirror. Margaret behind her, holding a makeup brush like a dagger. She doesn't fit in the pictures, Margaret said. Lauren hesitated. You're sure this is? Cleaner this way, Margaret interrupted. No confusion. No drama. Just family. They both laughed. Outside the gas station, my phone vibrated again. New message. No name. Ghosts are only visible when the lights flicker. I didn't reply. Cleo looked at me. What now? I pocketed the drive. They didn't just remove me from the wedding. I turned toward the black highway, lights behind us flickering as if on cue. They rewrote history. Rain hammered the windshield as I parked in my driveway. Street lamp flickers. House dark. No porch light. No Daniel. I stepped inside. Cold. Still. I hadn't told him I'd be out all night. I also didn't care. The hallway mirror caught my reflection. Hair damp, eyes wide. Someone once told me, paranoia is just pattern recognition on a higher setting. I was seeing patterns everywhere. Shoes off. Alarm armed. Laptop open. I accessed the central event registry vendor. Same one the Hawthorns used. Same one I used to verify data integrity for Fortune 500s. Query, Calderon. Result, active account. I froze. I never created that profile. But someone had. Fake profile. My name. My birth date. But the email was off by one character, my maiden name reversed. Inside that account, a record of a cancellation. RSVP withdrawn. Personal conflict. Timestamped. Digitally signed. By me. Except it wasn't. I launched a trace. Located IPs used during session login. First bounce, New Mexico. Second, private server in Vail. Third, a Hawthorne estate router. Again, someone was forging my voice inside the system. Then it got worse. A file upload entry. PDF format. Internal memo. Authorization granted for reservation transfer. Per request by Penelope Calder. Attached was a scan of my signature. Perfect. But I'd never signed that form. I printed it out. Held it up. Even under the hallway light, the lines were identical. Too identical. No pen pressure. No variation. A digital trace. I flipped to metadata. Hidden field. Created with Adobe Signbot 4.9. Timestamp. 3:12 a.m., January 6th. I checked my location data. I was asleep in Salt Lake at that hour. But my phone? My phone had pinged a tower in Aspen. I hadn't left the state. I checked my GPS history. Wiped. The hallway creaked. I spun. Nothing. Just the wind pressing against the window. I activated the firewall trap on my system. Set bait. Seconds passed. Then, alert, intrusion attempt. Someone tried to access my archive vault. Remote. Spoofed as me. I shut it down. Too late. File activity showed an attempt to delete logs. I caught the shadow of it before the system reset. I didn't sleep. I drove. Cleo met me outside her apartment in a navy parka, thermos in hand. You look worse, she said. I showed her the PDF. She whistled. Signature's a clone. AI gen. Probably fed through style match indexing. Impressive. Can I prove it? If we can find the training source. Did you ever scan your signature? I nodded slowly. Bank records. Digital contracts. At least 4 times. Then they have your pattern. She handed me her laptop. Run this batch job. It'll sweep the event servers for AI gen markers. Takes 2 hours. I launched the script. We waited. I asked her, why would they go through all this? Cleo shrugged. People rewrite history for 2 reasons. Legacy or leverage. I stared into the dark and thought about Daniel. His silence. His distance. He hadn't called once since the wedding. The scan completed. For files flagged. One had my fake RSVP withdrawal. The others? Bank record. Power of attorney file. Will appendix. I opened the last one. My name had been removed from the list of family beneficiaries. No signature. No announcement. Just deleted. Replaced by Lauren. I felt something rise in my chest, like glass cracking from the inside out. Back at my house, I opened the back door. Stopped cold. The rug was wet, and my office light was on. I never left it on. I stepped inside slowly. Laptop in one hand. Pepper spray in the other. Drawers open. Cabinet half pulled. Someone had searched the room. Nothing was missing. Except, I turned to my external drives. One was gone. The backup vault. Gone. And on my desk, a single sticky note. Block letters. Red ink. Stay erased. They came for the data. Next they'll come for me. I didn't call Daniel. If he was part of this, I needed silence. If he wasn't, I needed distance. Either way, trust was off the table. Cleo had already pulled metadata from the sticky note. Paper stock, commercial grade. Ink, generic ballpoint. Nothing traceable. Just threat, plain and quiet. I took it as a declaration. They weren't hiding anymore. I drove downtown. Salt Lake's business district still slept under fog. My destination, Weller and Nolan Law Group. The Hawthorne's legal proxy for over 15 years. Margaret's bulldog. I'd reviewed some of their work before, back when Daniel's father passed. Ironclad. Old money trickery dressed in 6-point clauses. But I knew something they didn't. The cleaner the contract, the louder the cover-up. Receptionist was young, distracted. Do you have an appointment? No. I have evidence. She blinked. I didn't smile. Seconds later, I sat across from Aaron Nolan himself. Pinstripe suit, eyes like glass marbles. He knew who I was. He didn't offer coffee. I dropped a copy of the fake will appendix on the glass table between us. He didn't flinch. You want to explain, I said, how this version of the will exists, removing me from beneficiary status, even though the last notarized update listed me explicitly. He steepled his fingers. What you're holding is a privately amended copy. Margaret had full legal authorization to restructure the estate post-wedding. There was no wedding yet. She considered it procedural inevitability. I let silence stretch. Then, did Daniel know? Aaron's jaw ticked. That's between husband and wife. And fraud and felony are between me and the DA. His lips pressed thin, but his eyes, they flickered. I leaned in. Tell me something, Mr. Nolan. How often do you allow a client to digitally forge another person's signature, reroute financial holdings under sealed shell accounts, and delete their RSVP from a family registry to fabricate grounds for estate exclusion? His silence was answer enough. I slid a small recorder onto the table. I'm giving you one chance to walk out clean. Help me trace the original document logs, or I drag your entire firm into a legal trench you won't claw out of. He stared, a long beat, then quietly, I didn't know about the document switch. Who did? Margaret. He looked at me, and for the first time fear. She said you'd understand eventually, that some people can't handle inheritance. I stood. She's right, but she forgot one thing. What's that? I don't lose things, especially not myself. Outside, the wind picked up. I turned a corner, reached my car. Driver's side door scratched. Deep. Words carved in shaky letters. Family only. Cleo called. I tracked the last signal from your stolen drive. Guess where? Vail. Nope. Colorado Springs. Private storage vault. Leased under a dummy LLC. Corporate trustee signature belongs to Lauren. I closed my eyes. Want to know what's inside? She added. Yes. Original bank records. 2 IDs. Both yours. I only have one. Exactly. One of them shows an offshore transfer authorization dated 2 weeks ago. Cayman Islands. How much? 1.7 million. Silence. My entire trust. Gone. They're laundering you, Cleo said quietly, bit by bit. And replacing me. I booked a last-minute flight. Colorado Springs Regional. In and out. Storage visit marked legal document retrieval. Cleo hacked me a pass. I wore a baseball cap. No makeup. No wedding ring. The storage unit buzzed open. Inside, row of file boxes. Neat. Unmarked. One folder had a sticky note. My handwriting. Except I hadn't written it. It read, for probate submission only. Penelope's signature authenticated. Inside, the second ID. Photo blurred, but the name was mine. My jaw locked. I pulled out my phone, took a pic, then froze, because someone else had entered the building. Footsteps. Not staff. I waited, breath shallow, then peeked out. Black boots. Long coat. Hood. They didn't see me. Yet. But they walked straight past the main hall. Toward Unit 306. My unit. I slipped out the back corridor. No security cams. No alarms. My phone vibrated once. Unknown number. Message. You found your reflection. Look deeper. It won't like you back. I hit delete. Outside, I didn't run. I walked. Calm as camouflage. But in my head, something had cracked open. They hadn't just rewritten me. They were replacing me. The highway was a ribbon of wet asphalt under my headlights. Wind yanked at the car like an invisible hand, trying to steer me off course. I had one name, one lead, one drive left, and none of them pointed in a direction that made sense. The USB Clio had handed me burned slower in my pocket than my heartbeat. One line kept replaying in my head. Legacy is written in action, not blood. That line didn't make sense at the time. Now it felt like a warning. Colorado Springs Regional was empty at 2:14 a.m. Terminal lights buzzed. A lone custodian mopped near Gate 9. I didn't wait for applause. I went straight to rental. The car was basic. No GPS history. No tracking chips. Black exterior. Tinted windows. Perfect. I drove out toward Steamboat Springs. The route curved like a serpent cutting through the Rockies. The storm had turned the mountain pass into a blur of thunder and mist. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. You're not supposed to find this. I killed the screen. Distraction. Reveal. I drove harder. Near a sharp bend, I pulled over and took the USB out. One file was labeled private. The timestamp matched the day before the wedding. I plugged it into the car's diagnostic port, next to useless, but adaptive enough to power a quick read. Video file. Dark. Flickering. Tag GPS coordinates. Vale Grand Ballroom. I press play. Static. Then movement. Slow motion ripples of camera shutter flashes. One figure, tall, familiar. Lauren. Her smile too bright. Too calm. And behind her, Margaret leaning close, whispering. I turned up the volume. They were too quiet to hear at first. But the lip movements were clear. We erased the middle. No questions. Only those born of Hawthorne. I dropped the phone. The car alarm screamed. I jumped. Hands trembling. Someone was near. Penelope. Voice from the shadows. Cleo. Breath cold in the storm. I had to follow, she said. Her eyes were sharp. Too alert. Did you see it? I nodded. That's not just registry manipulation. That's premeditated erasure. They planned this long before the wedding. I stared into the mist. Wondered how deep it went. She pulled a second drive from her coat. Before you arrived, she said. I didn't ask. She handed it over. Inside was folder after folder of bank records, offshore transfers, trusts, and shell accounts. One in particular, Hawthorne Legacy Trust. I opened it. Lauren's signature. My signature. Side by side. Except I'd never signed it. That trust controlled every asset tied to the name Penelope Calder. Property, liquid holdings, future inheritance. And it had been siphoning funds for months. The air crackled. I felt watched. I caught a flash in the corner of my eye. Headlights, far behind, flickering like a heartbeat. I glanced back. Gone. But not forgotten. We climbed back in the car. Neither of us spoke. Not until we reached a rest stop 3 miles ahead. I pulled a water bottle from the cup holder. Shook it. Water sloshed too loud. What scares me, I said, isn't that they erased me from the wedding, it's that they've rewritten everything about me they could get their hands on. Cleo looked out the window. When a story gets rewritten, she said softly, it isn't just about losing truth. It's about replacing identity. My phone buzzed again. Image. A photo of the storage unit door. My unit. Open. No lock. No tape. Just wide open. The timestamp, 2:59 a.m. I looked at Cleo. She exhaled slow. They were inside. No alarm. No disturbance report. Nothing. Just empty. Everything taken. I slammed my fist against the dashboard. Adrenaline spiked. This was never a wedding story, I said. It was a bypass. A setup. A motif to lure me out. Cleo's eyes narrowed. Think about it. Why would they delete your name from a guest list and then present it as family only if they didn't want you out of the house, off the grid watching? The cloud cover broke. The moon sliced through the fog. And I saw it. A reflection on the rearview mirror. A pickup truck, idling behind us. No headlights, but its engine hummed like a predator waiting. I didn't need to turn around. I knew who it belonged to. Lauren. Or someone she'd ordered to do her bidding. No wind. No sound. Just the hum. Closer. Too close. I slammed the car into drive, Will screaming. Up the incline. Around the bend. Cleo fired up her laptop on the passenger seat. She routed a live stream to a remote server. Just in case, she muttered. Halfway up, the truck tailed us. Braking too close. I swerved. Gravel sprayed. The truck kept pace. Heart hammered. I thought about a quote I once told a client. Fear isn't the enemy. Stagnation is. So I sped up. Faster. Then the twist. The truck disappeared. Not behind a bend. Not in a shadow. Just gone. One moment there. Next, empty road. No lights. No engine noise. Nothing. Just fog settling like blood on stone. My breath was heavy. Too heavy. I turned to Cleo. She stared at her screen. Last file, she said. I didn't want to know. But I did. She hit play. Another video. Location stamped. Ballroom entrance. Footage from the night of the wedding. Not the ceremony floor. The back hallway. Almost missed. Until you froze the frames. Frozen. And there, on a security feed nobody knew, was stored. Me. In the corridor. Walking toward the ballroom. Happy. Smiling. With Daniel. Walking through a door that never opened to anyone on the public guest list. But they had the footage. And I wasn't supposed to see it. Then something else flickered on screen. Someone else following me. Someone tall. Dressed in black. No face visible. Just footsteps. Then the screen cut to black. The wedding was never the real ceremony. This was. The ballroom looked smaller in daylight. No flowers. No champagne. Just folding chairs, microphones, and the quiet authority of people who write reports for a living. The Division of Financial Crimes had taken the front row. So had the IRS. So had a civil litigation team from Denver with eyes like scalpels. I stood at the podium. Hands steady. Voice calm. Cameras rolled. Daniel sat 3 rows back. Alone. Margaret sat beside Lauren, spine straight, lips pressed thin, still wearing the posture of someone who believed this room belonged to her. It didn't. Not anymore. The evidence came first. Digital logs. Registry. Manipulation. Forged signatures. Shell trusts. Offshore transfers routed through a Cayman's clearinghouse that no longer existed. Cleo handled the tech walkthrough. Clean. Precise. Unemotional. I watched faces change as the timeline assembled itself on the screen. Erase the RSVP. Isolate the asset. Forge the authority. Replace the identity. A story rewritten line by line. Someone once said power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. Today it confessed. Then the video played. The hallway footage. Me and Daniel, walking toward a door no guest list acknowledged. Margaret's breath hitched. Lauren's jaw tightened. And behind us, frame by frame, the man in black. Not a stranger. Not an outsider. The Hawthorne family's private legal consultant. The architect behind their trusts. The man who taught me corporate security, compliance, 3 years ago. He'd taught me how to protect systems, and later taught them how to weaponize mine. Motives surfaced slowly. Not money. Control. Margaret had wanted a clean lineage. Lauren wanted permanence. The consultant wanted leverage over an empire built on inheritance. They thought I was collateral. Daniel stood. I didn't know the extent, he said. His voice cracked. I knew my mother wanted her will revised. I didn't know Penelope's identity was being dismantled. The room stayed silent. I looked at him. Silence isn't innocence, I said softly. It's permission. He sat back down. The arrest came quietly. No drama. No shouting. Just hands behind backs, and the click of cuffs that sounded too final for a family that once filled entire ballrooms. Margaret didn't cry. She looked at me as they led her away, eyes sharp, calculating even now. You could have stayed, she said. You chose this. I nodded. Yes, I said. I did. Weeks passed. The accounts were restored. My identity revalidated through federal affidavits and biometric audits. The trust returned, this time under a firewall no one but me could breach. I sold my share. Every last cent. Legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you refuse to pass down. On a quiet morning, I packed the last box from the house Daniel and I once shared. The walls echoed differently without expectation. I left the key on the counter. Outside, the city breathed. I breathed with it. Someone once told me that being erased is only fatal if you let others define the rewrite. I didn't. I authored my own version. I don't attend family weddings anymore. I don't ask to belong where silence is currency. What I learned is simple, and it cost me everything to earn it. Family isn't who claims you when it's convenient. It's who doesn't need to erase you to feel whole. I wasn't excluded from a wedding. I was released from a lie. And for the first time in my life, I walked forward, without asking permission,